First Book of Moses, Bereshith, Chapter 1, First Creation by Elohim. In the former time periods, as a powerful sign of working, chief son and heir Elohim filled with choice things, behold, as a sign Shemayim, the place of the names, and behold, as a sign Aratz, the chief place of running. But observe how Aratz was unorganized and empty, and Sheshach rose up from the deep waters, went up to its face, but the Ruach Elohim, as a wall of protection, moved violently upon the surface of the waters. Elohim then declared, light he will exist, and light he will exist. And Elohim gazed upon that beautiful light, and Elohim made distinctive the light from the darkness. And to the light Elohim called out the name Ya'un, and to the darkness he called out the name Leah Laha. This was the close and the dawn of the first age.
The Ketub Abarayath, or the PaleoHebrew, is a language over 5,000 years old. It chronicles a story branching forth from ancient time. His story, Yahweh. Walk into his story. Read the PaleoHebrew scriptures.
I don't know if some of you might have caught it earlier this week. I put up on YouTube that tonight, originally, I was going to be talking about Witness of the Stars, which deals with the zodiac and the gospel as well as prophecy that could be found in the constellations. Now, I was going to base that study on the magnificent work of E.W. Bollinger. Of course, he was pulling his resources from other people who were contemporaries of his. And it was such a complex piece of work. I mean, magnificent going through the constellations. I can't wait to give this talk with you guys. But I wasn't able to whittle it down to 1 week. And I don't want to make it a whole series. I just want it to be a one-off, move on to the next. And there was no way there was just way too much. I cannot break this down. So at the same time, many of you were saying that, Noel, the last 2 weeks, the stuff you're talking about, we want more of this, right? I got a lot of those responses. So we're going to give it another go. And I have a lot more material to show you on real men and women versus weaklings and the common woman, which is sure to win me the popularity vote. Now, we're just a few days away. There's a lot that I want to talk about tonight, and I don't want to just rush into this for fear of stumbling over all of my points. We have the Tuck Retreat coming up next week. I cannot wait for it. In 2 days, Sunday, we are starting the drive. Michael, if you're listening, we're driving out to your house. We were not going to get there on Sunday. You don't have to worry. We'll get there on Monday. It's like 1,000 miles to get out there. And I haven't talked about this much on YouTube. I have talked about it a lot with the Tuck Discord community. For those of you who are just, members over there, and it's open for everybody to come in. But we're just a kind of a tight-knit family over there. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you out in Arkansas. We're going to have Passover. We're going to have unleavened bread, just eat a lot of food. We're going to have, of course, teachings and just fun time. We're going to stay up late past everybody's bedtime, just talking about the Bible, conspiracy, you name it. And looking forward to seeing all of you. And there was something else I probably wanted to cover. Oh, well, I'll get to it. So I want to reiterate one point before we get too far into tonight, because I'm inevitably there's going to be people who listen to this who didn't listen last week or the week before, or maybe any other week before that, in which I talk about the standard that I hold to morally when I read other books. Now I'm going to be reading to you books tonight from the Kolbrin, which is the same textbook that we get books like the Book of the Illuminators, Book of the Nazarene, things like that from, which I'll be quoting from tonight. And it's the Torah, the books of Moses, the first 5 books of the Bible. So it lays out the standards, the commands, morality for us, and all the rest of the Bible, the prophets, Messiah, the apostles, they all held to that same standard. So I could sit here and I could read to you classic American literature. I could read or British literature. I could take you through the works of Shakespeare. I could take you through Little Women or Heidi or Swiss Family Robinson, or we could read the works of Mark Twain. We could read, we can go into Dante if you want. I could read to you all this work, and then we could, compare it to the Bible and say, does this stack up? Does this passage right here connect with the commands? Let me give you an example. I've got here in front of me Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. I could sit here tonight. We could do a study on Green Eggs and Ham. And starting out, we have the most villainous character in all of literature. And I mean, I stand by this. I mean, in the great tradition of villains in literary history and movie history, you have Hannibal Lecter, you have Norman Bates, Darth Vader, the Wicked Witch of the West, Nurse Ratched. Remember her from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? Oh, here's a great one, Mr. Potter. You guys ever see It's a Wonderful Life? I could go down this whole list. I mean, Sauron, Voldemort, so on. So I just mispronounced his name. I'm sorry, but Sam I Am tops that list. I mean, look what this guy does right here. I mean, we're just going to take this to the books of Moses, and we have this annoying figure who brings in an unclean food into this man's house, and he tries to seduce him through peer pressure to eat ham. But not only that, I mean, even if you take away the ham, he's still putting he's putting dye into the eggs, and we want to remove, dye from all food, from Fruit Loops and everything else. Children don't need to be eating a green or blue or red Fruit Loops. I think they would be probably gray or brown without the dyes. And the reason why he's one of the great villains of all time is that he has amazingly slipped into every child's room and nursery and taught generations of children to eat unclean food. So that being said, we're going to go into this text tonight with the same standard, and we're going to see if it upholds to the teachings of Messiah and the Torah. So here we go. Real men and women versus weaklings and the common woman. Oh, and with further ado, many people will say without further ado, but I'm telling you with further ado for the moment. I just want to remind everybody that we are a ministry that is putting out, we put out a lot of books, but it is our goal to get the Paleo-Hebrew, the Bible translated through the Paleo-Hebrew. And we just had Pamela on last night to explain that for people who have questions. We just put out the Gospel of Matthew. We put out the Torah. We put out Song of Songs. She's working on Joshua, other books like that right now. This is going to be like a 15-year project. And we are asking for ministry partners to come alongside our vision, who want to support us in this work. Pamela is, barely scraping by, and we want to make sure that she is fed, clothed, taken care of. And of course, my family, as well as Rebecca, we all depend on your generous support. It came to my horror to learn that the link that I had underneath all of my YouTube channels was for an old fundraiser from like 3 months ago. So I think a lot of people were going there and looking at that and going, oh, this guy, he's had all his needs met. That's actually not the case. I put the new one out under there. If y'all put it on your heart, please, we are asking for ministry supporters, partners, come alongside us, and as we go through this week by week. So without further ado, here we go. Now, I'm going to ask this question out there to those of you who are in the live chat right now. I should have asked this a few minutes ago. I'm going to ask this. The professor here is asking the class a question based review from the last 2 weeks. What is the purpose of a woman, and what is the purpose of a man? According to how I defined it, can anybody out there define it? I'm curious. I'll wait here a moment. I'll just sip on my drink. Come on, class, don't leave me hanging. I know there's a lot of you in the chat right now. Somebody type it out. Okay. I like this answer. This is good. We'll work on this. John Q, thank you for putting this in. He said, a man is made to be more, a woman is made to be different. Now, where he's pulling that from is 2 weeks ago when the title of the video was Men Are From the Earth, Women from Heaven. And I showed you how the mother of humanity, Eve, she actually literally came, she was born in paradise, in heaven. She came down from heaven, born in paradise. Adam came from the earth. He was born outside of Eden. He was brought into it. Woman was brought, in Eden. And I told you at that time, based on the literature that we were reading, that this is the definition of, or the purpose of a man and a woman. I'm not asking for the definition of what is a man and what is a woman, but what is their purpose? Well, the purpose of a woman is to inspire man to be man. And the purpose of man is to inspire woman to be woman. And women were created as a heavenly creature. They are a higher grace than this earth itself. Men were created to hunt and to be, they're kind of like, utility, they're like knives, and they're out there to shape the earth and cultivate it. And a woman is there to inspire man to higher heavenly things. And one of the things I pointed out is that one of the great lies that unfortunately women have embraced through feminism is this idea that they can be men, and in doing so, in trying to transform themselves into men, they have given up their higher heavenly self. I think that's, part of the tragedy, of course, with, when you get into toxic masculinity, when you get into the worldly view, I use that term toxic masculinity, but the worldly view of men can be distorted as well. And last week we went into what is a real man versus a weakling, a weak man. And amazingly, all the things that it described, go back and watch it if you haven't, all the things it described of real men were totally Yeshua people. They were people who were modeled after the heart of Yahuwah himself. So let's start reading this tonight. So now that it has just defined what a true woman is and a true man is, and of course there were two categories of women. There were wives and wife potential, and then there was the common woman. Already, I'm sure I'm going to get several unsubscribers based on that right there. I've actually gotten more unsubscribers over the last 2 weeks, and probably my entire YouTube career. This has been triggering a lot of people. It's really challenging a lot of 21st century notions of what it is to be humanity. I think one of the difficult things is that, I opened up 2 weeks ago, asking you, are you a feminist? And everybody would probably say no, but then I started showing examples, and I think it kind of really hit personal with some people. They're like, oh my goodness, I guess I am a feminist. And some people maybe couldn't handle it. And I want to point out too that the idea of a common woman versus a wife or a wife potential, I think that probably hit home a little too close to home for a lot of people as well. Is that you can be white when the way they define wife potential is that you can be single your entire life, and that is completely acceptable. It doesn't mean that you are less of a woman if you don't get married. You can be. To be wife potential means you're still that, that type of woman that inspires the human race as a whole. You inspire men, you inspire women as a whole. All right. Chapter 8. This comes from a book of Morals and Precepts, Attitudes of the Real Man Towards the Poor and Weak. So we're going to see different examples of how we should be living our lives as men. And we're going to see here that the real men, we're going to continue seeing the theme that they do, in fact, have the heart of Yahuwah. Lend your arm to the aged and open your purse at the cry of the poor. Guard well against the urge to plunder the unprotected and from treating the destitute with harshness. If you are lacking in compassion, it is well to remember that today one may be rich and another poor, yet ere a year has passed, the rich man may be working in a stable, and the poor man may be clothed in fine linen. Such are the balances of life. And it is therefore wise to turn a like countenance towards all men. To end the discussion tonight, I'm going to be playing you a video from my friend Paulie. I asked him if I could play. He said totally. He gave me permission, and it's a very a personal video about what he's going through right now, where he has seen those fortunes change in his own life, and we could overnight. I mean, it happened to Job. Any of us can see those fortunes change, and we need to go through life having that compassion towards the poor and the destitute, realizing that that could be us tomorrow. Help the man in unfortunate circumstances, for anyone can fall into the pit of misfortune. Commit no assault upon him by reason of his weakness, nor turn his predicament to your own advantage. Fill his stomach with bread and drink, provide a place for him to lay his head. Let your countenance be cheerful toward him, and let words of encouragement fall from your lips. Assess honestly the boundaries of the widow's estate. The land that is lost to the plow is the waste of a man's lifetime. Now, I had to go over this line several times. I'm like, what are they trying to say here? Because at first, okay, so we're talking about a widow here. The context is the widow has lost her husband. The husband was there cultivating the earth. That was not necessarily the woman's job. And now she's got this estate with land. And the first line I was thinking, it was telling the man to, which agrees with the Torah, that you were not to move your neighbor's boundary markers, right? I'm like, okay, so it's basically saying here that, okay, you know, this woman is widowed, don't take advantage of her and start moving onto her property and utilizing it and not sharing. But as I was reading it more, look at the second line here. The land that is lost to the plow is the waste of a man's lifetime. So the way I'm reading this is that it's telling you, like, let's imagine a scenario. You are on a plot of land that grows food. Your next door neighbor dies. He leaves behind a woman. And now you're looking at this and going, man, that man, he labored out there his whole life toiling to produce fruits or vegetables. And now it's going to go to waste, and this woman is going to go hungry. So what I'm going to do is of course, you get her permission, but I'm going to go over there, and I got my plow out. I got my ox, maybe it's a tractor today or whatever, though I have seen the Amish out there with, you know, that they got their wagon and their oxen. And I'm going to go over there and I'm going to plow some of her land. I'm plowing my own. So I'm just going to go over there and spend some time on her land. And then she could have that. Like, I'm going to help take care of this woman that is now without a husband. That's what I think it's saying there. To put other people's needs right up there with your own, and to love your neighbor. Do not deride the clumsy speech of a lowly man. The fine phrases of the rich man may be pretty things of no substance. Sincerity is rarely bedecked with finery. What a man has in his head and heart is more important. I'm sorry, I don't know why I am mispronouncing so many words tonight. What a man has in his head and heart is more important than the fine words that fall from his lips. So, well, let's just read the next verse and you'll see the following thought. An honest man is slow of speech. He fumbles for words and is confused, but his eye is straight. The wily man is quick of speech. His wits are ever sharp from constant use. What they're telling you here is that the dishonest man is probably going to be more esteemed by humanity. Humanity will look at this man and go, wow, he has it all put together. He's so fine. Here I am stumbling over words tonight, right? And, you know, as public speakers, we always want to tune our speeches and to really, you know, impress people, right? And it's telling you here to actually focus, pay attention to the clumsy people, right? Maybe the guy with a little mustard on his shirt or something like that, you know, maybe his trousers are a little too high. You can see his ankles, you know, whatever. He's got the suspenders. I don't really know. But the guy in the slick suit, and he's polished, the speaker, he's up there on the TV and he's talking all that kind of stuff. And these are the people they follow. And you know, they're telling you that the man with the clumsy speech. I mean, look at Moses. I mean, that guy, he had some sort of speech impediment, like some sort of problem with his lip. He burned it, whatever, and a lot. He probably struggled his whole life with people really wanting to listen to him. The just God, or the just Elohim, turns a ready ear towards the outcry of the lowly. Therefore, the prayer of the poor man is greater than the might of sharp weapons. We could say the pen is mightier than the sword, but actually the prayer is mightier than the sword. Even though he is of no account among the people of his own time and destitute of the power of fine speech. I'll say this because I'm telling you that the real men's speech here, they're not against swords or weapons, or being a badass knight. I mean, they're very pro knight. I read you actual passages last week where they are addressing knights in armor, and how to act. But prayer is, I have spoken to so many quote unquote religious people who put so much emphasis on their weapons. And when you start talking to them enough, you get this idea that they don't put much trust in prayer. They don't put much trust in Yah actually intervening for them. And I'm telling you right now that like those of you who if people who are always waiting to be pounced upon tend to be pounced upon. It just happens that way. There's something about that energy that it attracts those kind of people. I remember I used to know a guy who was really big on, he had he didn't want his women, his daughter or anything to go anywhere without him. This is the American South, by the way, without him being there with a gun to escort them. And then he would give story after story after story after people coming up to get into a fight with him. And, he almost has to pull his gun out on them. And I'm just like, I live in the same neighborhood as you, dude. I've lived here for a long time. I've never had any of those problems ever. And I've always felt Yah's protection over my life. So prayer is mightier than every single weapon out there. Put your trust in Yah. He will take care of you. If you see an aged man staggering with the fullness of potent drink, lend him your arm that his dignity may be lessened. I don't think this is telling you to, if you're looking at the letter of the law here, you're like, okay, I gotta keep a lookout for like a drunk guy, like an older drunk guy. And I'm going to run outside and prop him up and make sure he doesn't fall over. I think it's talking about just the dignity of, the elderly period. Now, in this context, obviously there's an elderly man who probably he's had too much to drink, but you don't want to point out his, you don't want to shame the guy, right? You want to respect your elders, and keep them from, stumbling into that shame. Treat your elders with respect in the presence of their children. This is a great line right here. Reminds me of Job. Sit not while an older man stands, or while the weak and afflicted have no seat. The stronger man always stands for the weaker. If any man himself being powerful robs the helpless, he shall be your enemy. This is great. Nor shall he be your enemy in secret, for this would make you a hypocrite. If you see injustice, hide it not in your heart, but cry it from the housetops. Even though you lose your life thereby and your possessions are lost to your children, have no dealings with the robber of the weak and the oppressor of the helpless. Of his estate he is unworthy, and it is just that it be taken from him. There was a few passages in here. You guys will notice that I put for the cover, from the Silent Robin Hood movie, which I've actually never seen that one. You guys probably know I like to put a lot of pictures up of old silent films, black and whites. But I've never analyzed the film Robin Hood. I've seen different takes on it. Some people will say it's like purely, it's a film about rebellion, therefore it's Luciferian. I've seen all different takes on it. I've seen people say that it represents the green man, or just whatever, some pagan god. I've seen all sorts of stuff. But at its core, when you look at what Robin Hood, the story really is, I've seen the Catholic propaganda as well. it's a story about a guy who goes off and he of course he's fighting for King Richard the Lionheart. He's fighting in this crusades, and he realizes that this war that he went off, that this patriotism and this propaganda that was fed to him, that he went off and fought this terrible war. And I'm not just quoting from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves here, which, by the way, is, my favorite, right? Because you have Robin Hood who goes back and forth between a Western American accent and semi-British. It's really fun to watch him go back and forth scene for scene. But he comes home kind of he's really happy to be home. But he's dejected from what he went through, and he comes home and sees this treachery happening within his own country. I mean, this is a theme that has been played over and over and over again throughout literature and movies, and he can't turn a blind eye to it. And because he can't, he recognizes. Let me read this line again. If any man himself being powerful rob the helpless, he shall be your enemy, right? And what happens is that when you speak out, and it says don't be secret about it because then you're a hypocrite. What happens when you speak out about this person, you become the enemy. And often these people, they might be very polished of speech. They're the ones that people look up to, right? And you're going to be, what happens to him? He's thrown out. He can't live in his house. He can't live in society. He has to go outside of the norm. And you have to kind of give up your worldly, you have to chance giving up your worldly goods. Even though you lose your life thereby and your possessions are lost to your children, have no dealings with the robber of the weak and the oppressor of the helpless. Of his state, I already read this, but he is unworthy and is just that it be taken from him. The real man is the protector of the unprotected and counselor of the ignorant. For there will always be those who abuse power and strength to oppress them. Always, at every time in history, it will never cease. There will never, even if just you can imagine the most amazing things happening in the West here. And people wake up everywhere and they get rid of the poisons and start eating clean. And, we get rid of the Fed or whatever, whatever the situation, even if you're in a complete anarchy, you were to just dismantle the government altogether, which is, I'm not saying is a good idea. There will always, always, always be people oppressing other people. It's just the human experience. They will rob the poor, oppress the afflicted, exploit the helpless man, and seduce the ignorant maiden from the household of her father. They burden the earth, and the real man knows how to deal with them. He shall wield the sword of vengeance in the name of the high Elohim, and justice shall not weep outside the courtyard. Manliness carries its burden of responsibility. It is not a gown of fine linen, but a coat of mail. There you go, right there. Speaking to all the knights out there, if Elohim has, now let's talk about the real man's attitude toward wealth. If Elohim had endowed you with riches, then regard them with pleasure, for the means to good deeds is in your hands. Now, I wanted to cross-reference this with the Book of the Nazarene. I prefer calling it the Book of the Luminaries. We sell it in our store. And the version we have actually cross-references as much scripture as we can in there. We put a lot in there. Other people added scripture in, I added scripture in, and you could see how this text actually lines up amazingly with the Bible. Yahusha taught his Talmudim, and the Talmudim would be his disciples. And he said thus: all things a man possesses, his talents and his skills, are gifts bestowed by the grace of Elohim. That would be the modern Hebrew for God. The inheritance received by anyone should be regarded as something received in trust. And it is true that if they deal with it wrongfully or selfishly, payment will be required. One of the greatest of life's tests is the challenge of wealth or position. And few are those who successfully meet it. Why? Because, we could argue whether power corrupts. I think it does. But more than likely, the corrupt are attracted to power because it allows them to live more selfishly. Therefore, do not envy those with wealth and position unless they deal with them wisely. Otherwise, pity them, for they have failed to rise above their test. And this is Messiah talking right here. The rich are responsible for providing the needs of the poor, whether by work or food. This, above all, is the prime responsibility of wealth. So right there, you just saw, like, and this is what the real man does, right? We saw last week. The real man doesn't just, there's nothing wrong with, you see a person in need on the street and you help them out. You should. Like, that's a good thing. But according to what we read last week, the real man goes out of his way. Like, he's like, I have this responsibility. I have this power. I have this wealth. Yah has blessed me with this. And you know, it's a test. And you pray to Yah. You're like, what do you want me to do with this? Bring something into my life, bring someone into my life that I can invest this in your kingdom and help them out. And let me give you an example of what sacrifice is. Sacrifice is it's like, let's imagine that you're going out and you're getting pizza for your family. Now you're on a tight budget, and pizza is not cheap anymore. You go out there and this is it. This is your one splurge for the week. You're getting pizza for your family. You go and pick it up. There's a guy outside. He's starving and he hasn't had any food. And you look at this guy and you have pity and you say, here's my pizza. And you give him the pizza. And then you have to go home to your family and you're like, you know what? I'm not having pizza tonight. We're having something else. That right there is, according to Messiah, that is true sacrifice. And that's what he says. And if a rich man says this, he can, this above all is the prime responsibility of wealth. And if a rich man says this, he cannot do, then his riches witness against him. For if a poor man has a loaf of bread, he will share it with he who has none. And a beggar at the door of a poor man receives better treatment than he does at the doors of the rich. Yet the rich have the most to give. And this is the sin of the wealthy. So just remember that there's nothing wrong with having wealth or riches, but it will testify against us if we are hoarding it and using it for our own glory rather than the kingdom. Riches of themselves are not sinful, according to Messiah right here. It is what they make of men that brings them into ill repute. If they were properly regarded as something permitting the possessor to study the books of wisdom, what are the books of wisdom? We have the books of wisdom in our Bible. And to redress the wrongs of the poor, then they would serve a good end. Let the rich ask themselves with sincerity, am I not wealthy because of my lack of charity and the exploitation of others? Is it not because I love myself more than my neighbors? That's a good question to ask. Why do we have our riches? Whatever's in our bank account. Now, some of you are listening to like, I got nothing in my bank account. Okay. But they just said here that the poor people tend to treat the poor people better, or other poor people better, than the rich treat the poor. So that's a good question to evaluate in our lives. Why do I have this money? Why do I have anything? And what am I to use it for? Continuing with the regular scheduled program here, that was a quote from the Book of the Illuminators. It is not sufficient for a rich man to give to the poor or to alleviate the distress of the needy. He who, having received abundance from Elohim, doles out a picture to the a pittance to the poor, does but salve his conscience, and is not truly walking with Elohim. It is the duty of the rich man to cast the weight of his riches in the balances, that goodness may outweigh evil. Of course, that should be all of our goal on this earth, with whatever we're given, however many talents we're given, is to cast the weight of our talents and our riches in the balances to see evil overcome, right? Instead of being in the position of just like, oh, there's nothing we can do about it, and evil is just taking over the world, and we just have to, you just need to realize that's what's going to happen. And if you try to do something about it, you're in denial. It's like, no, that is not the attitude of a real man. A real man is out there saying, I am going to combat and fight evil wherever it is. They are my enemy. Anyone who oppresses the poor and the needy and lies and takes advantage of people, for their own benefits, for their, for making their money and their power, they are my enemy. It is the duty of the powerful man to range his might alongside the forces of good in the struggle against evil. He shall protect the poor against the exploiter and defend the weak against oppression of tyrants. My friend John Q likes to bring up a lot, C.S. Lewis in The Last Battle, how the dwarves, they wouldn't join any side because they're like, the dwarves are for the dwarves. And that's something that happens to, I think, a lot of people in this day and age. They won't cast their weight behind anybody because they're so afraid of being deceived, And it's like, look, yes, I get it. Zionism is still in control. Freemasons, the Roman Catholic Church, still got NASA, all this stuff, right? There are still lies and deception out there. But if we can find people, like we can't, if we're going to be like these terrorists that are going to demand that everything is destroyed before we're willing to jump into the fight, you're never going to jump into the fight. You're just making excuses. You will always sit out. You are turning a blind eye. You're just letting, we need to get out there and we need to combat evil wherever we find it. And there are a lot of people out there that are in a different place on this journey than we are. And we could still find commonality to go like, yes, let's join up on this fight and let's take out the bad guys. It is not so important to give to the poor man as to remove the cause of his poverty. To help the weak is good, but of lesser importance than to attack the oppressor. The law decrees, and this is a capital L, so like the law of the universe, this is the law of Allah Hayam. The law decrees that the lot of no two men shall be alike. If it were otherwise, earth could not fulfill its purpose. But he who has riches or is powerful or handsome, it's interesting, it addresses good looks as a type of power or wealth. That's kind of interesting. He who has intellect and skill should bear in mind that he possesses these under the law. Everybody is held to this, the same account of this law. According to the bounty bestowed, so must be the return to the general welfare of man, and a proper accounting will be demanded by the assessors in the hall of terror. I was just reading from Psalms of Solomon today. He said something actually very similar, where he was talking about that the wicked, the unrighteous, will be held to account in Sheol, and their sins will follow them there. No man is the absolute possessor of riches or estate, for his period of ownership must duly come to an end. And remember that, right? So like you could be the wealthiest person, you could lose it all tomorrow. It could all be gone. So all you can do is try your best to manage it today, right? For the glory of your creator. Rather is he the trustee of the riches at his command, and he should regard them accordingly. Look for the man of merit and see that he does not go unrewarded. Encourage the craftsman and promote useful works. So remember what I talked about last week, that it is better to, when you go to a party, this is Messiah's parable, it is better to go to the lowliest seats and sit there and never be noticed. And this is everyone's fear, right? It's like, well, why would I sit in that seat if I'm never going to be noticed? If I'm never going to be praised, I'll never be at the cool table, whatever, right? And many people do go to the high seat and they get away with it. But Messiah would be like, it's better to never be noticed at that lowliest seat than to be in the nicest seat and be excused and told and humiliated and sent back. And so this is telling you right here to look for that person, that man of merit, and see that he does not go unrewarded. And we already saw that tonight, that people who are clumsy speakers tend to be more truthful, according to this. And people who are very polished are better liars. And it's the polished speakers that tend to be more rewarded. And so you not to do that. Go look for those people that are not being that are being unrewarded. I'm being a broken record at this point. Encourage the craftsman and promote useful works. So whatever you do for a living, do to your utmost best. Like, put your love, you guys, for the taco lovers out there, you know what I'm talking about, or maybe the hamburger lovers or whatever. You go ahead and get a taco or a burrito. Like, you can tell when that person may be working a minimum wage job. You can tell when they put their full love into that thing. You eat that thing, you're like, oh yeah, baby. Like, I am tasting love right now. And then sometimes you go out and it's just like thin and like it's like filled with just like rice, and you're like, really? I thought I bought like a chicken burrito, or like, why is there like no chicken and like no guac or sour cream and it's all just rice? Like, they just put a big scoop on it and maybe a few other things and wrapped it up. It's like, okay, you put no love into this whatsoever. And so whatever you do, whether you're making tacos or burritos or making furniture or whatever, put your utmost love into that, even if you are not rewarded for it or recognized. Rather is he the trustee of the riches at his command, and he should regard them accordingly. Oh, I'm sorry. I repeated that again. So look for the man with merit. See that he does not go unrewarded. Encourage the craftsman. Let your wealth serve all men and not be dissipated in selfish indulgences. Seek out the promoters of poverty and distress and cast your riches in the balances against them. Notice there it says promoters of poverty, right? So that's just another way of describing people who are, basically filling their pockets off other people and sending them into distress. Do not expect life to reward you or even grant you peace or pleasure. The powerful and strong will be your enemies. This is the Robin Hood example right here. And even those you serve will betray. You will not be acclaimed and may even be derided as a fool. Only your soul will remain steadfast beside you. I mean, think about that. Like, how many of you have been considered a fool for going against the official narrative, right? With being that one person to stand up against the thousands of others and say, no, I'm sorry that I'm opening up my Bible and I'm reading it, and this is what it says right here. I'm sorry. I can't go along with what you guys are doing. And they're like, you're embarrassing us. You're a fool. You probably all heard that before. A rich man is not wicked because of his riches, for this of itself neither makes a man wicked nor makes him good. The Messiah said the same thing. It is the manner whereby he deals with his riches that determines a man's status, or you could say determines whether he transgresses the Torah or not, and his riches will be a witness against him if he is not using them accordingly for the kingdom. Live in moderate comfort and maintain a position according to your estate. Stint not in the acquisition of learning and things of beauty. Shun ostentation and publicity, for these are props of the weakling. The riches which exceed your modest requirements are superfluous to your welfare. It is by your dealings with the surplus that you will be judged. That's kind of interesting, the surplus, right? You make ends meet, and then you get this extra amount, and it's like, what do I do with this? What do I do? There is little advantage in the mere possession of riches. The advantage is gained in knowing how to use them. This is where the Torah itself is a transformative document, right? Transforming our soul into the image of our Creator. Wait not until men come seeking your compassion. Find them first and assist them without desiring praise or benefit. And that would right there, you could see the difference. Now, there's nothing wrong if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I'm in need. Can you help me out? And you're like, yeah, I'll help you. But I think that the difference here is if you're literally going out to take your fortune and try to find somebody that you can, help put on their feet in whatever the circumstance, you're probably not the sort of person that is seeking praise, right? Let not your generosity be hampered by the riches you have. Rejoice in their possession, for it is, if used for good, your pleasure is without blame. Again, there's nothing wrong with having money, right? Nothing wrong with having wealth or power or riches. But he who stores up riches beyond his needs and puts them to no good use swathes his soul in the wrappings of death. If rich, Become not puffed up because of your possessions, or if poor, be not downhearted. For Allah Hayam and his goodness mets out happiness to both. Count not upon your friends if you are rich and powerful, for they are untried. Can a man of title and position ever be sure he is loved and respected for himself? If the poor man is held in high regard, he can be happy in the assurance that it is for himself alone and he is at peace. So again, going back to the situation of the table, right? Like you sit in the lowliest seat and you're actually esteemed. You have that shalom going like, okay, wow, like I am being regarded for who I am, because these people have nothing to gain from me at all. I have nothing to offer them in way of power or money. Versus, the person sitting in that seat of high recognition, he's looking around at everybody and going, you guys are all fakers. Like you're just here. He's always suspecting this. Like you're just here to get something out of me, right? Because it's going to be the next thing and the next thing. And then whoever the next person is sitting in the seat. Possessions and position attract friends as honey attracts bees. But it is adversity which winnows them. Men test gold for its value, and gold tests men for their worth. That's interesting, isn't it? Goes about both ways with gold. To gather riches for their own sake corrupts the soul, but to deal with them to the benefit of others beautifies the soul. See the face of the miser and imagine the dark horror it dimly reflects, and behold the face of the benevolent man. Does it not mirror the radiance within? If on earth man is to learn the eternal values, he must be taught through the perception of earth values. The contrast of riches and poverty serves its end. I want to, in this chapter right here, talking about wealth, once again, quoting from the Book of the Illuminators, quote unquote, Book of the Nazarene. And this is a story that Messiah told Yeshua about his mother, Mary. And this is what he said. Yeshua said, when I was a boy, the poor would gather about my mother's door, for she always had an extra loaf in the oven for them. It's a really a beautiful way to think of his mother. It actually lines up with a lot of the early literature we have, like the infancy gospel of James, where he, said, people can argue this point, whether she was or wasn't raised in the temple, but all these stories that talk about Mary, she was always just caring for the poor and trying to clothe them and feed them. I mean, she was a model citizen, a true woman after Yah's heart. One day, a beggar, having been fed often and now perhaps considering it his entitlement. This is the worst kind of poor man right here. He's entitled. Like this man has been fed. He has learned that he doesn't need to go out. He can be lazy. He doesn't need to go out and work. He is now entitled, that he demands to be taken care of by these other people who are giving everything in order to do this. Well, he found fit to scold her. For this day, she was not well. She's sick. It's like she's like so sick she can't even bake that day. He has no understanding for this whatsoever. And therefore she was slow. She, not being used to this, began to weep. So Yeshua remembers as a child watching his mother weep over being scolded by this beggar outside of her door while she was sick, probably with a fever or something like that. So I say unto you, do not let the talk of thoughtless tongue perturb you, for this is only a foretaste of what is to come. These things are refining processes of the spirit, of the Ruach. Therefore, rejoice for the benefit rather than the sorrow for the hurt. For when my mother cried, I said to her, dry your eyes and be happy, for now you can perform your charitable acts to perfection. Had those who stood about the door praised you, the deed would have been less worthy, having been done for their praise, and therefore not entirely out of charity. Can you imagine being a woman, maybe a young woman, and having your son like talk to you like this? Amazing. Many do good works because it increases their self-esteem, but charity is not giving the bone to a hungry dog, but giving the meat when hungry yourself. This is what I told you earlier with the pizza example. You're walking out of the pizza store with the pizza you have been waiting, just desiring all week, filling whatever food group you want into this example, and you give true charity to this other person, knowing that you yourself are not, it's not that you can just afford to go get another piece of pizza or another box of pizza. Here's, $15. I'll go buy you a cheese pizza, whatever. Just, they'll bring it out in a few minutes. I'm on my way. It's like, no, here it is. I'm not having pizza now. You don't need to tell them this, but that is true giving. That is true charity. That is, being tested to our ability. Why are we really doing it? Andrew said to Yeshua, if we give all we have to the poor, they will grow fat and slothful, preferring a life of beggary to one of toil. This is what we just saw with that man. And we ask these questions all the time. Well, what if they're just going to use it for booze or drugs or whatever, right? And look at his response. Yeshua said, charity is giving a hand to a blind man or soothing the wounds of those smitten by the spirit-strengthening sword of life. It is good to help those in distress or those who cannot help themselves, but sometimes giving does more harm than good. Okay, so always remember that. Maybe they shouldn't receive your money. You don't need to be taken advantage of by, people who are just going to use it on, prostitutes or drugs or whatever. Maybe they have responsibilities to a wife and children, and they're just going to go use it for some other means. Many give because it eases their conscience or raises their self-esteem. Think about when you go to the grocery store and they're like, are you going to round up, like 10 cents to give this cause? And I'm always like, no, I'm not. I'd rather give that 10 cents to, something I know it's going to go for. They give me the stink eye. I remember, let me just finish this. Such giving is not goodness. But when giving entails self-sacrifice, not just rounding up, a few cents to the dollar to some charitable fund that's going to go fill like fruit baskets for a CEO, then it is better to give than to receive. For the benefit lies in the sacrifice made and not in the thing bestowed. I'll never forget back in the day when I used to live in California and I used to go to Trader Joe's. If you guys are from California, you know what that is. And of course, we have a Trader Joe's here in Charleston as well. And outside there would be PETA. It'd be this guy and this girl, and they would always be like, "Save the whales, save the whales." And they were just very angry, entitled. You're kind of probably pretty unhinged kind of liberals now. And they would look at you and be like, "Don't you want to save the whales?" And I would be like, "Yeah, well, I'm going to save the whales." They're like, "Well, give us your money." And I used to ask them, like, if I give you $1, how much of that dollar, like down to the cent, is actually going to go save the whales? And they'll be like 100% of it, every penny. I'm like, really? Every penny that I give you is going to go save the whales? And I'm like, can you show me a chart? Can you show me where exactly does my money go? And they would say, well, you have to be a PETA member before we're ever going to show you where your money goes. I'm like, well, if you can't show me, then I'm not going to, give you a single dollar. Eventually, just because I didn't believe them for a second that my money was it would just feel good, right? It just made me. They were trying to make me feel, or put me in a position where I would, whatever. Yeah, and eventually they just, started ignoring me. They would give me the stink eye when I came out. Yeshua said, we read that right there. Chapter 10, towards servants. Be just to your servant if you expect faithful service from him. And if you would have his obedience, be reasonable in your commands. The spirit of manhood is in the slave. Yes, it is. It even slumbers in the craven-hearted. Undue harshness towards your subordinates may create a fear of you, but you will never command their love and respect. Mitigate reproof with kindness and temper authority with reason. So shall the labor of your servants become a pleasure, and your benefit therefrom be the greater. Of course, Messiah would say, be a servant to the servants. He serves faithfully who is motivated by gratitude. Loyalty follows in the train of respect. No man knows what events lie in the womb of the future, or what calamities lurk in the shadows of days yet to come. When evil times fall upon a man, it is the trusted servant who will sustain him. When dissatisfaction is rife among the servants, it is a time of calamity. That would be mutiny, right? And it, it's really a beautiful picture, this idea of a loyal servant, like a butler, right? The butler who's there to wake you up in the morning and make sure that the lint is rolled from your jacket, and he gives you your slippers, and he makes sure your food is cooked. And if it is truly a loyal servant, the point of the servant is to make sure, like we read earlier, the stumbling old man that's drunk, that you hold him up to make sure he doesn't come to shame. When you fall or stumble, they are there to catch you and to make sure that you are not brought to shame. But if you do not have that mutual respect, that's when you're going to get into the mutiny. If in return you fail to reward loyalty and diligence from those who serve you, then you are unworthy of honest service. Deflect no man from the proper course of his duty, for this is a contemptible thing. Steal not the loyalty of a servant from his master, for this is unworthy of a man. I would say this is what I call contempt of court. Don't go in and try to, I think of like people who enter different ministries, and their goal to be there is to pull people out. And when you see that happen, you see it's always the same. The wolves come in, the sheep run, they scatter, they never come back. So steal not the loyalty of a servant from his master. A master who treats a faithful servant meanly is an unworthy person, and whatever his titles in estate fit only to be classed among common pinch purses. Now let's flip the situation, and let's say that remember now that the definition of a real man is not whether or not you're successful in life. The definition of a real man is what your end goal is. If your end goal is to beautify your soul, and what I mean by that is that you are conforming. The Torah is a transformative document where you want to transform who you are inside to the image of our Father in heaven. That's your end goal. If that's what you're striving for, whether or not you write, I'll give myself an example. I'm a writer. Whether or not I make it on the New York Times bestseller list, that's not whether or not I'm a true man or not. What is my end goal, right? Why am I doing what I do in my craft? You want to change lives, you want to plant seeds, you want to help people grow, and whatever you do, whatever your trade is. So towards superior. So let's say that now you are no longer a master with servants or slaves. You are now the slave or the servant. You may never rise above this in life. You're that person, that chair. You may never be recognized. The state of servitude has many advantages, for it escapes the cares and decisions of authority. Well, that's true. He who serves, there are so many people out there that they just criticize our leaders, like the government. And it's true. Like if they are evil, they should be our enemy. If they are stealing from us and taking advantage of us and lying to us, they should be our enemy, right? But many of those people who criticize, I'm glad you're not in control, because you would be worse. You would be so much worse than these people you're calling evil. I don't want you in any authority position, much less, whatever. The state of servitude has many advantages. All right. For it escapes the cares and decisions of authority. He who serves faithfully may feel no shame in servitude. The loyal servant walks among the concourse with unbowed head. Be faithful to the trust which your master reposes in you, that you may be more trusted and become greater. The time and labor for which he pays belong to him, and if dealt with indifferently, are a fraud against him. Hold your tongue in check when making answer to him who is your chief. Do not revile him privately, for this is the way of a coward. So this would be saying you are a weakling of a man if you speak, if you just say all the things he wants to say in his presence, because now you're a faker. You don't mean that at all. You're just trying to get something out of him. And then when he's not around, you are speaking negative or evil things about this person that is then causing other people to be in mutiny, and not, you're now pulling away other servants. This is a coward or a hypocrite. Do not abuse men who are greater than you, for this is an admission that you can never be like them. Ouch. How much does that happen in our day and age, right? Like there's in the West today, this idea of superiors and people who are put in positions over us by Allahayam himself, this is almost unrecognized. And we spend so much of our time just going around belittling people, just mocking them and this kind of stuff. According to this, again, now some men in power shouldn't be in power, right? We've already covered that. And they are weaklings. But do not abuse men who are greater than you, for this is an admission that you can never be like them. And I always think that, like, when people they just start name calling, it could be in comment sections, it could be on social media. As soon as somebody starts name calling you or you do the same, in any given argument on a 1 to 10 scale, that is the losing position. You are a level 1 now. You are basically saying that I cannot defeat your position. I am not in the right. I just don't like what you have to say. And so I'm just going to try to belittle you because that's all I can do. Never injure the arm that protects you or undermine the supports for the roof that shelters you. I mean, we have a saying for this, don't bite the hand of the master that feeds you. Be prudent in your statements and never let another speech fall upon you like a noose, so that you may uncoil it by means of your answer. So this is, one of the good reasons to be slow in speech, know what you're talking about. Don't be a motor mouth, because then they're going to catch you. And this is the noose that comes around you and you get taken out and you get brought to shame. Some people are probably too foolish to recognize they've been brought to shame. Consult with your superiors pleasantly and quietly, not to create a mutiny, of course, acknowledging your position as a subordinate. You don't want to bring them to shame, right? You're there to help prop them up, make them successful. You're maybe having some disagreements. You take it aside, you work it out without spreading the leaven. Take care not to stir them up against you. At all times, bear yourself like a man, for servitude does not entail servility. A man's position in the community does not indicate his status in life, right? Again, you can be a great man or you could be a servant. By great, you mean, powerful, high position. It does not determine whether you're a real man or a weakling. Though the governor may appear to be noble in his position and with his titles, he may resemble the sacred crocodiles in cruelty and rapacity. When in the presence of your superior, do not press forward unduly or speak in a loud voice, for this will bring you unfavorably to his attention. If you are, this works, by the way, with police officers too, when you get pulled over. If you are made unimportant in the presence of your chief, nevertheless, conduct yourself with dignity and reserve, and let not your self-command depart from you. This is kind of saying the same thing over and over again, right? Don't let that noose come around your neck. Never answer a man in authority when you are wrathful, but remove yourself quietly from his presence. Return a soft answer. Of course, we know a soft answer turns away wrath. When he utters words that rankle, that's a fun word, and thus he will be pacified and you will display your self-command and restraint. Answers that provoke those in authority will become rods for your back and staves that strike you down. The wrath of your superiors will react unfavorably upon your affairs. He who remains silent under provocation is the better man, but if provoked too far, then it is a time for action, for neither silences nor words are adequate. He serves best who serves silently. The trusted servant is he who keeps his tongue in check. A wagging tongue has its roots in a quaking heart. Go quietly about your tasks. The reward is your own self-respect, knowing that it is well done. I was just thinking of so many different pictures in my head there. But this is just saying the same thing over and over again, right? Have this, put that love in your taco. When you're, whatever it is. I love tacos, all right? Put that love into it. And, that person may never come around the back to the cashier, the drive-through window, whatever, and be like, man, that was a good taco. You made this is like the best taco I've ever had. Thank you. They may never do that, but you yourself know that, you have that self-respect because it's like, man, I put everything into making that. It is harder to be efficient than to be inefficient. Therefore, inefficiency is the mark of the weakling. Loyalty and diligence are qualities of the real man. Man, loyalty, that is something we don't have a lot of in this day and age anymore. The weakling is irresponsible and slothful. The path of duty is difficult and beset with problems. Therefore, it is shunned by the weakling who prefers to take the easy way. The real man finds satisfaction in his craft. The satisfaction of the weakling lies in unproductive foolishness. I'll say this, that I find this a lot with you guys have probably all encountered it before, like the end times rapture crowd, where they fall into this position of, it's all coming to an end. There's nothing we can do about it. Stop going out there and being fruitful because it's just all it's like, that is a loser position where they're not going out there and actually making the world a better place. Whatever happens, whether a volcano blows up tomorrow, we get taken out by a tornado or a tidal wave, or the nukes that either exist or don't, whatever happens, we want to have that satisfaction that we are putting our everything into our craft until the very, very end, until Yah calls us home. We want to hear him say, well done, good and faithful servant. I have given you little, but you've been faithful with it. So now I'm going to give you much, versus what I gave you, I'm taking away. All right. Attitudes of the real man towards the wrongdoer. Abandon the wrongdoer and the workers of iniquity to the dike. That doesn't need to be repeated. That the rising floodwaters may engulf them. Ouch. There's some people that, basically, I mean, I just gave you the example of like end of the world scenario, right? Maybe it's recognizing that these judgments are kind of like coming for them. And just at the end of the day, like Noah built this ark. He goes out there and preaches. He's like, look, I got a big ark here, a lot of rooms. You could ride out this cruise in comfort, just come on board. He couldn't get anybody to come on board. And that day came where he's like, you know what? You guys save yourselves. I'm not going to go out on a limb for you guys now. I'm not going to endanger myself or my family. It's over. The floodwaters engulf them. Thus their way shall no longer cause disruption among the people. Let them be seized by the storm, fiend in the midst of the rising waters. The lawbreaker and worker of wickedness are to be cast forth from the body of the people, that it remain healthy. The purveyors of filth and the fornicators will be met by the strong arms of real men. The day itself will stand up and make an accusation against their abominable doings, and the night will spew them forth. If the sons of wickedness say, lend us your arm in the shadows. This sounds like straight out of Proverbs right here. Let us set a trap for the unwary, that his goods may pass into our possession. Let us strike down from behind and leave his body in the gutter. Or let us possess ourselves of his gold by sly means, and thus become rich ourselves. Or come, cast in your lot with us, that by our joint endeavors we shall become wealthy. Walk not along the paths with such as they, for as they lurk for blood, so shall their own blood be requited. The wrath of real men and upright men against the wrongdoers and workers of wickedness is like the hot blast that precedes the sandstorm. And before it, the strength of the evildoer shrivels and becomes nothing. I almost think of the two witnesses in Revelation, that the fire that comes out of their mouth. And of course, this fire is the Holy Spirit. They are able to quote scripture. They know scripture. They have studied it. They know how to live a righteous life. They know the Torah, and they are standing up against the masses of people who are lawless. They are not upright men. They are not righteous men. They have twisted scripture into their favor so they can live this lawless lives. And just your very breath that comes out, the words coming out of your mouth, they can't stand up to it. It just burns them to a crisp. The wrongdoer becomes a slave to his own wickedness. And that's absolutely 100% true. The Torah, the law of Yahuwah, is liberty, whereas sin is slavery. It's death, right? We don't want to be a slave to sin. We want to walk in the freedom of the way of Yahuwah. Therefore, do that which is right, and your spirit shall remain free. I just put a question out there for the class. For those of you who are here watching this video is going to get, I'm telling you, you're going to get a lot less views than the last 2 weeks. But question for the class that have made it this far into the lecture tonight. Have you guys read anything so far in this text that disagrees with the Torah? I'm curious. I mean, this is like spot on. This is basically just speaking wisdom literature, which of course would be the Tanakh. But wisdom literature in just kind of slightly different ways, over and over again. It is not sufficient for the real man that he turn away from wickedness. He is the fighting man of Allah Hayam, and his duty is to combat evil wherever he finds it. He who sees an evildoer at work and remains silent is an accomplice. He who remains inactive in the presence of evil condones the deed. That which is not actively opposed is encouraged. That is so true. I mean, think about like the slippery slope that our society has become, where every generation that condones one thing, the next generation embraces it. And then that generation condones something else, and the next generation embraces it. And pretty soon, like mankind, we have strayed so far. I mean, people 200 years ago would have looked at Western society today and been like, man, this is a wicked, evil people. I mean, even a lot of the people who consider themselves, good today, they would be embracing things that would have been evil and wicked just a few generations ago. Again, so that which is not actively opposed is encouraged. It's not about, it's not about pro-choice. Like, oh yeah, like we'll give you the choice. Like, I disagree, but no, it's like, no, I'm going to be pro-life and I'm going to oppose anyone that is pro-death. The slander and gossip monger shall be cast forth, for their ways are evil. This would be someone who maybe speaks honorably to the person in their presence, but behind their back, they are causing division. The fornicator and seducer shall feel the strong arms of real men and regret their deeds. The thief and trickster shall be removed, and the murderer shall forfeit his life. That's a really interesting phrase here, the trickster. I'm not going to talk about that tonight, but that's really interesting. The adulterer and those who dispense sorrow shall go unpunished, but overlook not that which induces him to follow the paths of wickedness. Is it just to cut off the hand to punish the heart? Weaklings encourage wickedness by their weakness. Real men cast it out by their strength. That which benefits man is good and accords with the plan of Allah Hayam. That which is against the welfare of man is evil. But who among men is wise enough to know what is good and what is evil? Therefore, inscribe the writings of wisdom on your heart, that you never lack a guide in the dark alleyways of perplexity. A great way to state this is that I've said this before, that if you spend your days studying wisdom, you spend your days studying the Torah, wisdom and the Torah will instruct you during the night while you sleep, right? So when you're in those dark alleyways and those places of what it calls the alleyways of perplexity, man himself is not worthy to teach you, but the Torah will teach you. It will continue to instruct you if you have devoted your time to that. Now, this next section, the unstable man, we covered some of that last week, so I'm just going to skip ahead. We don't need to cover the mean man either. I want to talk with our remaining time tonight about family relationships with daughters. I want to bring this back around again to women to kind of close off this 3-part series. We started it with women. We talked a lot about men, but now it's going to be the father's relationship with his daughters. And I think you're going to find this very interesting. And, you know, I had a daughter. She's almost 3 years old now. Of course, I have 2 twin sons as well. And it was interesting when my wife was pregnant. We had a COVID baby, totally surprised. We thought we couldn't have a child again. We didn't know till the moment she was born whether she would be a boy or a girl. You know, my wife, she had her in a pool. And so she lifted her up and able to announce it to us that she was a girl. And going into it, this is kind of interesting. I would speak with like mothers, and there'd be like a daughter. Why do you want a daughter? Like, daughters are just trouble, and they just, you know, they're just, you know, always, you know, whatever. Like, you want boys. Boys is what it's at. And then you go speak to the dads, and the dads be like, it's like, no. Like, daughters is where it's at, right? And there was something, you know, I love all my children very much, but there is obviously something very different in how you react with sons and daughters. And this says right here, the flower of your household and the pearl of your dwelling, the shrine of all the gentle virtues in your home, is the woman child you call your daughter. And this is going to show that, like, your relationship with your sons is very different than your daughter. Just kind of like, you know, the relationship with your wife. Lavish your affection upon her, for affection is the sustenance of all women, without which they will wilt like flowers without the sustaining waters. And this is where fathers, you could crush your daughters, or you can make them really, really beautiful. You could cause them to blossom. And we all know what happens when women have daddy issues. Like, we do not, like, everybody's going to have baggage, and there are no parents on this earth that are perfect. Everybody, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we all grow up, and there are positive things about us and negative things about us that both come from our parents. Like, my parents raised me in a way that I'm very grateful. It made me into the positive things I am today. There are things my parents did that, you know, produce negativities. But at the end of the day, I am a grown man, and I have to take responsibility for my own actions. It's not my parents' problem. It's my problem. I am, you know, I basically set my own destiny. But of all the things we're going to do as fathers, like, you like, all the baggage that our children are going to have, I hope it's not daddy issues. I hope for my daughter, and I hope all the fathers out there for your daughters, that they're going to, like, love their father in such a way that they are going to want to go and get married to a man to kind of, like, express this kind of, like, love that they had for their fathers. It runs into our marriage, right? I've said this before, that if you're courting somebody, the same rule applies for men and women. If you're a woman courting a man, pay attention to how he treats his mother, assuming his mother is still alive. You know, it could be, you know, a lot older, right? Or how he talks about his mother. And the same thing goes with men courting women. Pay attention to how she treats her father, or how she talks about her father in his presence or behind his back, because that's how it's going to carry over with you. So lavish your affection upon her, for affection is the sustenance of all women, without which they wilt like flowers. This is great. Guard her will from brutality and crudeness. Permit no lewdness in her presence, for she is the symbol of grace and delicacy in your household. I'm telling you, when my daughter came into my life, everything changed. There was a, you know, every parent goes through this. When you have a new child, you're like, you know, do I have enough love in me to expand to this other child? And you always have it. There's always this love that you didn't know it was there. But I'm telling you that when my daughter was born, it just, like what this just said right here, like the symbol of grace, like the idea of of woman coming from heaven, like I got it. I'm like, oh wow, this is completely different. Her welfare is your responsibility. Respect the gentleness of her nature and shield her from all coarsening influences. This is why I said there's like, if I watch a movie, there's movies where I'll watch with my sons, and they're getting older, where they can start, I can start, telling them things about how the world really works and functions. I'm not going to watch those same movies around my daughter ever. Like, it's not going to happen. I'm going to treat my daughter yes, there is a double standard out there. There should be. There should be double standards. Women should be treated with a higher grace and respect, and treated as beautiful creatures than men. Leave her instruction to the women folk. This is kind of interesting. For only women can instruct in the ways of women. Nevertheless, let her not go without discipline. Treat her with firmness and instruct her in responsibility. Humility and obedience should not be overlooked. Teach her to realize the power of womankind for good or evil, and instruct her in the arts of womanhood, for a man like woman is an abnormality. And this is why it says that really only other women are, should be teaching young girls to be women. And I've said this in the past, that I think as we're looking at a culture that has been gutted out, the younger culture than me has been gutted out, where they don't really know what men or women are. Now, a lot of them are wholly rejecting that, but there are a lot of people who they've gotten sex changes, they become transgenders. And I've stated that it's a lot of the people who are doing this. Let's say a man wants to become a woman, or a woman wants to become a man. A woman doesn't want to become a man, usually because she really wants to be a man. Usually it's out of fear of becoming a woman, because this young lady doesn't have a role model in her life to teach her to be a woman. And it's the same with a lot of men. Maybe they had terrible fathers or whatever, and like they're afraid of the responsibility of the patriarchy, of masculinity, of being a real man, and it's easier for them to become effeminate, to become a woman, to be a weakling. There, I just said it. So again, if there might be examples out there where the husband is raising a daughter, and he's a widower, maybe the woman has died. You have those situations, but if it can be helped, you want another a matriarch figure to teach her how to be a matriarch herself. The nature of woman is not easy to mold. That of a man is easier. I fully agree with that. I'll tell you, my daughter, she was, of course, very different when she was just even a little baby. I could tell the difference. And with my two sons, when they were like 1 or 2, I could bond with them, and they would bond with me, which my daughter does. I mean, she's daddy's little girl. She loves me very much, but there was something like I'll tell you all right now. My 3-month-old daughter, she would give me this face, like during the middle of the night, like the screw you creepo face that I haven't seen since I was in high school. Like I couldn't believe that this comes naturally with women. The women do not learn this, that they actually just have this from the time they're born, that they give this men like that creep face, right? Like, I'm coming in the middle of the night too, because she's crying, to take care of her. And it's like, you're not my mom, And so I started learning that she has this little teddy bear. She calls him Teddy. And I started learning that I could communicate to my daughter through through this bear. And I would, start, saying to the bear, I love you very much. And can I give you a kiss? And she would hold up the bear, and I give the bear a kiss and stuff like that. And the whole process with her was just much, to this day, it kind of scares me as a man, like raising this girl. Like, they're not there's this greater depth to their mind. It's like a maze or a labyrinth in there, trying to navigate your way through that thing. She is to be gentle but not weak, delicate but not frail, yielding but not submissive, and sympathetic without being subject to imposition. Now, for those of you who do get around to reading my novel, which hasn't been released yet, That actual line in there ended up in my novel. I love this line, that women are to be gentle but not weak. Okay, gentleness does not mean you're weak. You're to be delicate, like that flower that blossoms or wilts, but you don't want to be frail. Yielding does not mean straight up submissive. All right, and sympathetic without being subject to imposition. I love that line. That's amazing. It's saying that, to not confuse things that on the surface may seem like the same thing. The training of a daughter is not to be lax because of her beauty. Rather, it should be the contrary. Undisciplined beauty is a thing of evil. Like, vanity, right? Like a woman who knows their like beauty and they could use that for a position of power for their own selfishness, that's just straight up evil. Womanhood, if handled wantonly, destroys the manliness of men instead of inspiring it. I started out asking you to define what is the purpose of a man, what is the purpose of a woman. It tells you right here. The purpose of a woman is to inspire man to be man. But a wanton woman destroys men instead of inspiring them. And of course, it goes both ways. To her, you are the example of what a man should be, for all the fathers out there. She will measure all men according to the standard she sees in you. Therefore, assure yourself that it is fitting to a real man. And that's where I said earlier that, like, I personally think that a father should raise his daughter in such a way that the daughter loves him so much that she actually wants to go off and get married to a man, to respond to the example that she saw. Not in such a way that she like so doesn't like her father and be like, that's it, I'm gonna go sow my oats. I'm not gonna get married. I'm not gonna have children. I'm gonna go out there and live this life of whatever, power, and be my own woman, and nobody is going to be lord over me, or something like that, right? Like, you want to raise your daughter to be like, yeah, I too want to be a matriarch. I too want to be somebody's woman and have children and be loved like that. If any man seduce your daughter and thus defile your home, then it is your duty to render him incapable of repeating the deed. Now, in just about any other time in human history, you could fulfill this line. Unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, we live in a world where morality does not line up with the law. The law is not necessarily the representative of morality. Many times it can, many times they have crossroads. This is not one of them. There is a reason why in the Old Testament they set up sanctuary cities. Not for revenge shall this be done, but to keep undefiled the homes of other men and to maintain the values of womanhood. If you're, I wish we lived in a world where you commit adultery, it's a death sentence. That would put the fear of Yah in people. Be like, yeah, I don't want to seduce this man's wife. In the instance that she is not married, that she is a virgin, and she is raped or whatever, she is defiled. You demand the bride price. You don't have to give your daughter to him, but it's like, you're giving me the bride price. You have defiled my daughter. I am getting I'm getting justice here. Recompense is the word I was looking for. And think about that. Like, if every single time you did this as a guy, you realize that you had to pay a bride price. Like, man, this is the thing I love about the Torah. Like, it is set up so that righteousness outweighs evil. If it is followed, if people truly, follow the Torah in their heart, this world, righteousness would outweigh evil. There will always, as long as there are mortal men, there will always be sin. There will always be transgression. There will always be evil. But we want to live in a world where righteousness outweighs that. Unfortunately, it's the opposite right now. If your daughter be seduced, then you have failed as a father and must adjust the scales, that you fail not also as a man. The seducer has offered the greatest possible insult to you and your household by openly declaring before men that your daughter is unworthy of marriage. Man, I wish more people actually thought like this today. When you choose a husband for your daughter, do not disregard riches and position, unless they are possessed by a weakling. However, choose first a real man, for he will establish his position. Your daughter will be respected, and her security and contentment assured. It is less difficult to raise a son than a daughter. Uh, so far, I would say that is absolutely 100% true. By the way, I had twins. I had two of them. I have one daughter. I think the daughter is a lot harder. Absolutely. For though both need equal discipline and chastisement, it is easier to give these to a son than to a daughter. I have to say that my sons, I think, are listening right now. It was always easier for me to discipline my sons. It is so hard to discipline my little girl. I'm telling you, that's my weakness as a father. It is really, really hard for me to do that. Consider the imperfections in your wife. Don't tell her her imperfections, but I guess consider them for a little while. Just don't make it, don't say that out loud. Due to her father's lack of care and wisdom, and ensure that they are not repeated in your daughter. And I think that that's maybe one of the, I will say that maybe, I'm an older father. I think that's one of the benefits. My wife had a troublesome upbringing with her father, and really struggled against it for a very, very, very long time. I will say that if I had a daughter when we were much younger, it would, I think I would probably be raising a very different daughter than I am now. And I'm glad that even though I'm getting on the older end, I will be a senior citizen when she is out of the house. I hope that I have a lot more wisdom now. If your daughter be fair in face and form, then beware, lest this poison her nature, for it will bring the indulgences of men. He who fathers a lovely daughter carries no light burden and no little responsibility. The father who has indulged and spoilt such a daughter is not uncommon, and he must bear the reproach of her husband. All right. This is a good one. Family relationships, wife. I don't know how far we're going to get tonight, but I was definitely hoping to get this far. This may or may not end it tonight. I'm not really sure. Family relationships, wife. Your wife is as the stone of Lamed. I don't know what the stone of Lamed is. I'm assuming it's pretty awesome, whatever the stone is, which doubles all it touches. So maybe that's some mythology that I'm not in touch with. My apologies. Sounds awesome. Give her affection, and she will return it twofold. Give her love, and it will be returned doubled. I think I said this last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, and I asked you to men out there to think of a time of, what the 100 times, the 30 times that you have been in an argument with your wife. And then I asked you to evaluate that and like just try to figure out one thing. You know how like Elon Musk asked like people to list 5 things that they accomplished in like a week, right, in the federal government. I'm just asking you to like list one thing in your entire lifetime that you actually accomplished that benefited her and you in arguing with her. Just name one. Like I cannot. And the thing is usually when I get into that argument mode, it's usually based on fear. It's because I'm afraid. There's fear, and it's not out of love. It's fear. I mean, yeah, there is, righteous anger that does happen. There has been a few times. There has been a few times recently, once recently, where my wife was like, "I see that you have righteous anger." She actually said that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm actually morally outraged at something that's happening. Not that she did it, but we were definitely arguing. But if you like just turn it around instead of, so what my point was is that in all those instances where I'm like arguing, it's because I'm afraid. Maybe I'm afraid that she doesn't respect me. Maybe I'm afraid that she's not loving me in a certain way, right? Instead of being a servant and saying, I'm going to turn this around. And I don't like the way I'm being treated right now, but I'm going to love you anyways. I'm going to love you as a precious item, as that flower that is going to wilt if I if I don't treat you with love and affection. And in those cases, it returns to our benefit. Now, hopefully that doesn't sound selfish, but as it says here, her love is returned double. That is 100% true. I'm telling every single married couple out there, every guy, that if you just love your wife unconditionally, even when she, yes, doesn't deserve it, of course, you probably don't deserve it more, you will get double investment. Think not less of her because she is in your power. Don't look down at her. She is your rib partner. Like, remember now, Messiah set the standard, right? When he washed the feet of his disciples, he said, I'm going to serve you. Yes, you are under my authority, but I'm going to be your servants. We are there to serve our wife. From whence comes this power? But from the Father's trust in your ability and steadfastness, your kindness and consideration. The wise man does not disdain a precious gem because he owns it. I mean, that makes sense, right? Think of if you have gold, you have an actual gold bar in your house. And I mean, are you going to go there and just be like, oh, I disdain you. You disgust me, bar of gold. I can't, I put you, I don't even want you. I don't even look at you. Don't even look at me. I just want to argue with you all that's no, there's, some guys will just polish down their cars every day because they love their cars so much. So the same thing with your wife. Think of her as the most precious thing you can own, but then double that. She should be treated better than our car, our shoes, our clothes, everything. Possession should add value and not detract from it. She is fruitful ground in which to sow. Plant confidence, and she will return faithfulness forever. Plant contentment, and the tree of peace will arise, whose shade shall ever provide a place of tranquility when you are troubled. Plant joy and reap a manifold harvest of gladness. You have not chosen her from body lust. Well, some men do. And, think about those marriages. They never work out. I shouldn't say they never work out, but hopefully you're not choosing your wife just purely for lust. Hopefully you're choosing her because I really want her to be the mother of my children. I don't want her to just be a trophy wife. I want her to be the mother of my children. So you're looking for matriarchy type of characteristics, nor to be a constant woman of pleasure. You're not looking for a common woman. These can be found on any street. So, I mean, if you really if just choose whether you want a wife or a common woman and live accordingly. If you don't, don't confuse the two. Nor did you choose her to be a laborer in the kitchen or the supervisor of the servants. These can be bought. Is she not chosen as the mother of your children, the mistress of the household, and the companion of your journey through life? And of course, she's there to take us to the next level, right? To inspire us to heaven itself. She will be there by your side in times of trouble as well as in times of joy. There is but one choice of wife open to the wise man, the best woman he knows. Miserable is he and unfortunate the lot of the man who knows not a good woman. Why do they shun him? Your wife will, if well chosen, have your sorrows and double your joys. If chosen foolishly, she will multiply your sorrows and dilute your joys with bitterness. This is if you confused wife potential for a common woman. It is proper that a man have a wife who should be loved so long as both shall live. This line is great right here. You love your father and mother through good times and bad, in sickness and in health, though they provoke or ignore you, chastise or praise you. We always have, I hope everyone out there can go, maybe you have a bad relationship with your parents, but there's this love for your parents. Deep down inside, every guy wants to have a relationship with his father. His father might ignore him, as it says here. It's the father may provoke or ignore you, but deep down inside, you want to have a relationship with you want to have that one thing in common with your father. You want to, to connect with where you come from and your lineage. But their shortcomings and weaknesses are known and they're accepted. Due allowance is made for their failings and their love is always returned. Yet they are not of your choosing. You did not choose the body. You did not choose what you look like. You did not choose your family lineage. Therefore, if you can accept to be content with those not of your choosing, is it not reasonable to accept you to be more contented with a wife of your own choice? So you chose this wife. So why can't you be content with her? I mean, you're content with the people well, we do bicker a lot in our family, but the saying that, blood is thicker than wine, right? Put her not away from you when she is no longer young. To whom did she give her youthful freshness? Let the delight of your youth be the companion of your old age, and you will not find her wanting. Who knows you better than she does? Youth is turbulent and old age is tranquil. Would you put away the tried companion of your struggle because she bears the scars of the conflict? What would replace her? Youthfulness that is untried in adversity, beauty that blooms on the face but is scarce. It's getting late, guys. Let me try this again. Beauty that blooms on the face but is scarce budded in the heart, and vitality that has not been sacrificed at the altar of your ambition. Would you give away the sustaining nut for the pretty shell? That's kind of interesting right there, right? Think about like her youth, the beauty of her youth is the shell, but the sustaining nut within, that's the woman of your youth in her older age. That's really what you're living for, to grow old together and to unify your spirit together, the marriage of spirits. While youth is passing from your wife, her love is maturing within. That's that sustaining nut within that you want to get to below the surface. Her love, like the unfired clay, was pliable and unstable in youth. Now it has been passed through the fires of marriage and is set firm and solid, a thing of stable solidity. Now, keep in mind the context here is they're talking about people who do put away their wife later on. Today we would call it divorce. But always remembering that, look, what was the purpose of your marriage? If you're not finding pleasure in her now because she's not doesn't have the tight body of a 20-year-old before she gave you 10 children, you need to remember here that you're in this for all the wrong reasons. And it is the woman that has stayed by your side and has been tested through this fire with you. That is the woman you want. The unfired pot can be cast back on the wheel and remolded, but once fired, it remains firm until broken, and once broken, can be shaped no more. Think about the wine and the wineskins. In youth, the heart speaks between husband and wife and is excited. In the declining years, soul speaks to souls and is contented. The wife of your youth brings you the delights that any woman can give, but the wife of your old age brings you the contentment that can be given by no other. The need of man for woman is great in youth, but in old age, the need of husband for wife is greater. I love that line. I love most of these lines. This is a really good chapter. Love blossoms in youth, but it bears its fruit in the maturity of age. And that's true with any crops or trees you plant. A lot of times it takes years to get the fruit. The heartaches and pangs it engenders and chisels, cutting away at the granite of the soul, shaping it into finer form. Youth is the sowing time of love. The harvest is reaped when youth has passed. No matter how humble the dwelling, there should always be a place set aside for the womenfolk of your household. That last line there, think of it let's say, for a lot of human history, people might live in a one-room house. The children, the parents, they're going to be intimate in a bed, right? They're in the same room as all the children. And I don't always know how that worked out. I didn't grow up in that kind of household. We all had our own rooms, but it's telling you here, no matter how modest or humble your dwelling, always make sure that women have a place where they cannot be, maybe they're getting dressed, whatever. They have a curtain to be behind. Always make sure that there's a place where their modesty is upheld. Secrets of womanhood. This should be good. I'm going to figure out all the secrets right here. The mystery is going to be made known. O daughters of men, forget not your ancient heritage of mystery granted unto you in the days of old, when you were the light of mankind. This is going back to the passage of Eve, when she came down as the model archetype princess that we see in fairy tales, that had the original fire that is in the spark of all women today. Was earth then afflicted under your sway, and did men then degrade themselves and strive one with another? The age of benevolent mother rule has departed. This is kind of interesting. And little remains of woman's former glory. But remember that the fall of women and the woes of men were brought about by the wiles and weakness of woman. Now, I'm going to pause here, and I want to point this out that, yes, I mean, it's true. Like with Eve, she made her bed and she slept in it. She made her own decision, but then Adam did too. And I'm of the opinion that if Adam's wife had fallen, now this is my opinion, and I can't give you a chapter and verse in Genesis chapter 3, but I can show in other passages of scripture, even Hosea and others, that that a man can redeem his wife. And I believe that had Adam chosen not to sin, he had chosen not to transgress the command of our Father, that he could have redeemed his wife and it would have all been fine. Of course, we know we're in this predicament, not just because of her transgression, but because he decided to transgress as well. My daughters, remember your attributes and consider your estate. You can either be the instruments of good to inspire man to great heights. There it is again, the meaning of what it is to be a woman, or at least the goal of womanhood. So you can be the instruments of good to inspire man to great heights of achievement, or be the instruments of evil to degrade him and bring his manhood into disrepute. The hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. The woman who says, I will be no man's unless he be a real man, is a maker of real men and serves the purpose of Allah Hayam. Now, I hear this a lot in Western culture. And this is where I said that I think that, unfortunately, even amongst conservatives, the idea of a real woman and a real man is confused a lot. And it's very good that a woman should say, I only want to be married to a real man. But then you hear how they describe a real man, and it can be very superficial. And perhaps as superficial as maybe they are. We've already been through what a real man is and what a real woman is. And a real man is a truth seeker. It is someone who conforms to the image of our Father in heaven, who wants to take care of the needy, the destitute, who stands up against injustice. It doesn't, a real man could be poor. He could be rich. He could be physically attractive. He could be ugly. He could be fit. He could be in a wheelchair. You can still be a real man and stand up for truth and for justice, and wanting to be guided towards wisdom. So a woman who says, I will be no man's unless he be a real man, that's the context here. And she is a maker of real men, which is again the purpose of a woman, to make a man, to inspire a man to be a man, and vice versa. For the charm and mystery that are the gifts of life to women were ordained to create a desire and longing in men. And their purpose is to inspire men. Here it is. It just says right here, the purpose of women and their purpose. Okay, class, take notes, pay attention if you haven't caught up on this yet. This is our third week talking about this. And their purpose is to inspire men to what? To reach above and beyond themselves, because women themselves originally came from up above and beyond. They came down to guide men up, that they might obtain and possess a treasure so precious. Speaking of their souls, the eternity, becoming sons of Allah Hayam. Therefore, O daughters of beauty, value yourselves highly, for she who gives herself cheaply inspires no man. For it is the nature of man that he treasure that which is hard to obtain. This is why I said this 2 weeks ago. This is why men, like the way women are attracted to men and men are attracted to women are completely different. And this is why men try so hard to, get the good jobs and get the high paychecks and get the house and get the nice car and, dress, because they are trying to obtain the hard to get woman. It's the hunt. Man values the scarce gold, not the plentiful marble. We're getting close to finishing up for the night, guys. She who comes easily to man, he regards lightly. That would be the common woman. It is the law that man values only that for which he strives and suffers. Reveal not your womanly charms and secret attractions. Is not the moon more beautiful when shining through a cloud? For then its loveliness is enhanced with mystery. Woman was given a body to reproduce sons, which is amazing, by the way. I mean, absolutely amazing. A woman's body, like a man's body, is like it's okay. Without getting too graphic, it's got like one part that is made for reproduction, but a woman's like entire body is made for reproduction purposes. Like her entire body, and afterwards actually being able to feed children until they're able to eat solids. Amazing. And it's a shame that women have grown so estranged to womanhood that they don't even recognize that anymore, right? Like they will go their whole lives shunning having children. And I'm not judging anybody, but it's kind of interesting if you have an entire body that is made to reproduce children, that you would choose to shun your very body that your soul is encased in. And grace and beauty to inspire them to godlikeness. I'm sorry, I'm probably upset so many people by this point that I guess it doesn't matter at this point. The spirit of man is inspired and raised up by the love of his mother and the love of his wife. There will be no greater influence in his life than woman love. A graceful woman is ever clothed in mystery. A good woman will always make earth a better place for her presence. It's the same thing with a man, a true man, right? That the earth will also be better for his presence. Beauty of face and form are passing things, but the real beauty of womanhood lies beneath these externals. Right? We saw that with the meat under the walnut, the shell. Seek it out and develop it, for it will be much more endearing. And we saw that, again, when you marry in your youth, the sex is great. You get older, you get the wisdom. That's something that, the carnal mind will never understand. Consider not the beauty of the body, for it is here today and tomorrow departs forever. Concentration on outward appearances displays a shallow spirit to the eyes of men. Beauty of face and form may or may not be yours according to the dispensations of fate, but whatever you have must be accepted with gratitude and resignation. Remember that old song, never make a pretty woman your wife, the ugly woman sure can cook. What you have been given, little can be done to change, but it is not the most important part of your being. There is that within you which is yours to fashion as you wish. It can be of a beauty indescribable, transcending anything of earth. Therefore, give due thought to the pliable soul within you, for it is yours forever. It can be a thing of loveliness or repulsion according to your own decree. This reminds you, there's actually a beautiful story in the Colbrin. I might read it to you some weeks. And it's the story, I don't want to give it away. I will, though. It's a story essentially of a man. He has all these wives. He's usurped by his brother. It's almost like a Osiris Set situation. The brother goes in and sleeps with all the wives, just like Absalom did with his father, with the concubines. But there's one wife, and she is drop dead gorgeous. She's beautiful. And she refuses to sleep with the usurper. She's like, I'm going to be loyal to my husband to the end. She's the only wife. She's mocked and ridiculed by all the other women. This man, of course, is away a long time at war. So he doesn't know he's been usurped while he's away. Well, this other woman is, she refuses to sleep with him. And so he's a wicked guy. So he eventually, I think he cuts out her tongue and he cuts out her eyes and he scars, he like brands her face. And now she was a beautiful woman. Now she's just hideously ugly. Like people like are revulsed to look at her. She has put a veil over her face. She can't speak. She can't see, and she has to now go off into the wilderness. And she lives out there. And eventually, her husband amazingly encounters her again. And I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Actually, her eyes did remain. She couldn't speak. It was her tongue was cut out. Actually, the husband's eyes were cut out. So now he's blinded. So he can't actually see how hideous she is. He can't figure out why she can't talk, but he loves her extremely. And he treats her like the beautiful woman he remembers because she was beautiful. But the thing that she has is that she's beautiful on the inside. She's a very virtuous, loyal wife who loves her husband to the very end. And that's a bit of a tragedy because eventually he reclaims his throne. He has all his family and friends come, and somebody shows up and mocks his wife, which he puts that man to the death. But it really starts bothering him, and he's like, why don't you like unveil yourself? And when everybody gasps and she's hideous, she runs off in shame, and he actually is ashamed of his wife when he realizes how ugly she is, and she dies. And when he actually sees her spirit leave her body, and it's the most beautiful, glorious thing that he'd ever seen. And the parable there is that he had totally lost sight of what made her truly beauty. That physical beauty is a passing thing. But the fact is, her face could be branded and cut, her lip could be cut, and all this different stuff. But he lost sight of what truly made her beautiful. And how loyal she was to him. So it's a bit of a tragedy at the end. And this is, of course, in the same book. The law, which is beyond your understanding, has decreed the mold of your body. It is fixed, unchangeable. You can't, again, I've quoted from this before, you did not choose what you look like. Maybe in a pre-existent state you did, I don't really know, but you're in this body, that's it. You're not getting another body. But not so your soul. For here you alone are responsible for its appearance. This is for men and women. Remember that every thought and deed is a thread in the pattern of the fabric. Think well, will the results be a thing of beauty or ugliness? They're talking about the warp and the woof here of all creation, and that every single word, every thought you have, it actually manifests the world around you. It materializes it, and you have that ability to cast goodness or evil around everywhere. And we're going to end on that tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I think, next time we're going to go back in, as I stated, I want to get into Witness of the Stars. I want to talk about Serpent Seed. I want to talk about different things. This was a 3-part series. If you guys really enjoyed this, we can revisit this again sometime. There's so many good just chapters of wisdom. And I'll state again that, if you can find anything in here that disagrees with the Torah, let me know. I just think this is all spot on, and I love it to death. I hope this encouraged everybody. And on one final note, when we read passages like this goes to the men and the women. There are going to be men out there who are going to realize maybe how horribly they treated women, or maybe they had qualities of being a weak man. And then there are going to be women out there who are going to hear this and go like, oh my goodness, I had the qualities of a common woman. And, each one of us, we all have made mistakes in our past. There are things that I regret that I have done in my life as well. And the thing is that one of the hardest things to do is to forgive ourselves. Now, we all need to repent of our past, but I'm telling you right now, Allah Hayam, God, Yahuwah, he will forgive the repentant heart. He will forgive us. It is harder for us to forgive ourselves. And until we can forgive ourselves, we can't move on. We're always going to have, be indebted to that lack of forgiveness. And each one of you can choose how are you going to live the remainder of your days. You men out there can choose to be real men. And that's there are things in my life, every one of our lives. It's like we have to work on it, right? Little by little, day by day, and women the same. I hope this encouraged just married couples, to stick at it and just go like, yeah, like it gets much better later on. Yeah, I mean, if you got married young, I mean, my wife and I married when we were 21, 19, we were young. It was some great years. I'll tell you, it was some great times. But, the wisdom that comes when you stick it out together and you work as rib partners together to inspire each other to do greater things, it is so rewarding. Like, it is true. The fruit really does come. The fruit is there, but you have to harvest it. I'll give you guys this closing example. Marriage is like it's actually like car. Guys, you're gonna like this better. It's like a car, and you gotta take it in for the oil change, the tire rotations. You got to get the engine inspected. You got to take care of the things so it doesn't become a big old hunk of junk, right? Of rusted junk. And the day is going to come where if you're not taking it in for the tune-ups, now maybe you're one of those guys, you just do it all yourself. Great, right? But if you're not doing it yourself or having a mechanic do it for you, the day is going to come where you're going to take it into the mechanic, be like, my car's not working. He's like, yeah, we got to gut the whole engine. And you're like, oh my God, how did that happen? It's like, well, you haven't been taking care of it. And that's what marriage is like, right? You got to do the oil changes, the tune-ups, the tire rotations. You got to get it in regularly and take care of it, and you will have a long-lasting car that goes a lot longer than 200,000 miles. You're going to go 400, 500,000 miles. You're going to take that baby for a very long drive down the scenic route. All right. So good night, everybody. Love you guys. Let's do this again. As I promised, a raw and inspirational notes from a dear brother of mine, Paulie. Good night.
This might just be me talking to myself. If you see this, then you're blessed because I've allowed you in my inner journey. It is a little bit past the Ides of March, first day of spring. We're coming into the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Passover. I am at the junction of complete and utter bankruptcy or complete and utter breakthrough. And the prophecy that I tell myself, just the story that I've made up about tomorrow, is that everything's going to be okay. Is that God is going to work a miracle and that I will be fine. There are possibilities of the lies I can tell myself, that I believe they are lies, that I will be bankrupt, my house will go into foreclosure, and I will be jobless and penniless very soon. Let me tell you why these things are happening all at once. Our builder is a thief, and in the 2 years he's been building our house, he should have been done long ago. But we are today receiving our first inspection for electrical and plumbing and foundation, etc. We're not even dried in. There's not even drywall. Yesterday I received news of my lawsuit against the company I work for, that they are willing to pay my medical bills and a pittance over that, some $3,500. 500 of which my attorney will, with a steep discount, give me for his services. He'll take it for his services. So I'll be receiving $3,000 and be penniless after that. Well, I'll be jobless after that, not penniless. I'll have no paycheck. Excuse me. This is all happening at the time of the Feast of the Unleavened Bread, where, according to the law, I'm not required or not allowed. It's required for me not to work. And when I say the law, I mean God's law. The law of the Torah. The law that Jesus lived by. Yeshua, as I call him. And it's going to be a strange transition to sit for a week not working. And obviously, I'm going to struggle to do that. But then, all this excess worry about my house and about my job in the future is also going to be there when I return from Passover. But I can't disobey Passover. I would rather be penniless, jobless, homeless, than disobey God's law. And that's just the way it's going. I'm at the decision. I'm at the fork in the road. Speaking of forks in the road, this is my exit. I'm at the fork in the road where I have to choose to obey God or chase the money. And I choose to obey God. Though it stings. And that's okay. It just stings the flesh. He has the power to sting the soul. He has the power to condemn me forever to Sheol. And I don't want that. So I choose obedience to Him. That's where I'm at right now. It's a rough juncture. Rough junction? Juncture. Both. He will provide. He is Yahuwah Nisi. He is my banner. His banner over me is love. That's all I have right now.